You're, I don't know if your internet connection is just a little slow or something, Chaz, but you tried to say yeah, and it sounded like you said yeah, yeah. That's all we heard. It was a
Me,
very
it sounded like, yeah.
He's a Wookiee. I also think there's quite a bit of a delay because it almost sounded like you didn't quite get the joke and that you were just laughing to not feel left out.
So am I delayed now still?
Yeah, and your connection is choppy. So if you got porno downloading or
Well,
something on the other machine, you probably need to pause it. Oh,
Just
okay.
normal internet.
It
We
you
can
your
people
internet has
alcohol syndrome shit.
your internet has kind of always done that, where it'll throughout the
Yeah.
course of a 1 hour show, it'll do that weird, slow, choppy thing, and then it'll get better, and then it'll get shitty for a second, but hopefully it'll be okay. Robinson, I was hearing something going on in the background. I don't know what that is.
that was you talking a second ago.
Got it. You're checking the feed.
I heard that too.
Yeah. And
Cool.
I am sending out links.
Beautiful. And cell phones muted and removed from the desk areas so that it doesn't buzz the shit out of everything. What else? I need bumper music. God damn it, they need to stop changing apps. They change them and then I don't understand them anymore. Alright, that sounds good. Alright, who's ready?
I'm not ready, but I don't have much to say about that because I haven't had breakfast yet.
Alright, ready as you'll ever be.
Go for it.
Yes.
Alright, broadcast is starting in 3, 2. Welcome to the Sober Happy Hour radio broadcast. I am your host. We are coming to you live on youtube.com, streaming into your eardrums and all around the world via podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast catcher. You can email us soberhappyhour@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter @soberhappyhour. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/soberhappyhour. And I think that's about it. That's it. We've talked about other methods of getting in touch with us, but nobody gets in touch with us those other ways anyway. So why bother? Like, we could make a Snapchat, we could make an Instagram, we could make a MySpace. I could post my dick on Craigslist, and nobody's gonna care. They really only want to listen to the podcast. So this being the Sober Happy Hour radio broadcast, me being your host, I am here with my two good friends, Chaz and Robinson. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hello,
Hello,
gentlemen.
gentlemen.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
By
First
the
and
way,
foremost,
by the way, there is a new option on Facebook. Instead of posting a photo or a video, you can now go live. And if there's a way that we can go live on Facebook, did I say YouTube? I meant Facebook. On
you said
there's
Facebook. You did.
Okay, so there's an option to go live on Facebook. I don't know how to send this feed to that live, but that would be good.
So going live on Facebook would essentially be the same as us going live on YouTube. The problem is, I don't
Yeah.
think we can do both at the same time. Because
Well, if
unless there's a way to get the YouTube feed over to Facebook, which to me sounds like those companies probably wouldn't want that to happen. I don't know.
Well, if all three of us went live, could figure out how to go live feed on YouTube,
We are.
on Facebook at the same time, then not only would we have our YouTube followers, but all of our individual friends would then get a link to watch
Yeah.
us live on Facebook.
I think if we had a video process that we were doing,
There's gotta be a way.
and then that video feed was running into the computer, like we had cameras as opposed to using our webcams, then I'm sure we could broadcast on whatever method we wanted to, whether that be the Twitter Periscope or the Facebook Live or the YouTube Hangouts. But because we are using the webcam and we're connected to Hangouts, we could, take our cell phone and do a live Facebook feed from our individual cell phones, but then they wouldn't hear the two other people on the show.
Unless we took our phones and pointed it at the monitor.
Right,
Hey.
and then
and then you've got an digital to digital feed.
And then it would create a paradox, and the universe would explode.
Well, my shoes are pretty worn out, and I need a new paradox.
Clever. He's a clever girl. So, welcome back to the Sober Happy Hour radio broadcast. We took an entire month off.
Oh my God.
We called it a summer vacation. Yes, the last show was July 8th, and today is August 6th, so we were nearly a month. And I honestly think that just like most shows, whether it be a TV show going on hiatus for a season break or a radio show going on a week or two long break or a late night show, breaks are good because it gives us a chance to remember why we do this show and why we've been doing it for over a year now without taking more than 1 week off at a time, and also to think about topics and things that we might want to talk about, but I think more than anything to get our listeners. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. But if you wait too long, then they just forget about you and start listening to some other jackasses that are talking about sobriety and drugs and alcohol. So I think 4 weeks, perfect amount of time. We're now back, and we will be consistently on our YouTube stream and the podcast every Saturday. And we're back until we take our next vacation, whenever that might be.
So this is season 2?
Season 2. There we go. Oh, I could start a new naming sequence for the podcast now. Because the Radio Valencia naming sequence, I've kept with that this whole time because I didn't have a good place to break. So now we could start doing season 2, episode 1, and I can kind of start over. That's a brilliant idea, Robinson.
Okay, so this is Sober Happy Hour 1.2.
Or 2.1.
2.1.
All right. S2E01. Because, goddammit, we will run this ship for at least, like, General Hospital 25, 28 seasons, like Survivor or some shit like that. Did you know that Survivor's in, like, its 25th season? Which doesn't make sense, though, because Survivor has not been around for 25 years. I'm only 33 years old. Survivor didn't come out. Right?
When you were 8. What, 8?
It can't. There's no way. Reality TV is not that old. And they were like the original reality TV.
They probably have, like, multiple... I mean, they are in multiple different parts of the world. So they're probably, like, filming them all at the same time.
I wonder if they do a location, call it a season, do 20 episodes, release those over 20 weeks. That's not a whole year. And then they take a couple months off, start the next season. And so they're doing essentially 2 seasons in a 12-month period of time. So that's why we're on season 25, but maybe it's only been like 15 years. That sounds more correct. Anyway, I was having an argument with my wife this evening. Not an argument, a friendly debate. And we were debating over grammar. and something that I feel strongly about. And she was adamant that I was wrong. And I am frequently wrong. I am often incorrect. But I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong in this case. So I drove the point home pretty hard. Here it is. And I'm hearing myself in someone's monitors or headphones. I don't know whose.
Not mine.
It's a simple one. You should have gone to the grocery store versus you should have went to the pizza parlor. Now, if you have, it's gone, right?
It's gone.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. So, but she was so convinced that she was right that I started second guessing myself. You know how you do that sometimes? Somebody tells you something enough and they're really passionate that they're right that you kind of start going like, well, maybe I am gay. You have really good points.
No, just because you're jerking off to ladyboys does not mean you're gay.
Because they're so feminine.
They are women.
So, okay.
And they went to the grocery, went to the grocery.
No, you cannot had. Okay. So here's the fun part.
You cannot had went. You can went or you can had gone.
So what I figured out is if you successfully completed the task, then it is always went. If you did not complete the task, but you should have, or could have, or may have, then it's gone.
No, that's not the case.
Think about it. Think about it.
You know what? It's not true because I went to the grocery store yesterday.
Uh-huh.
And during the course of going to the grocery store, I had gone to the cooler to get some drinks.
Okay. Nope. Good point. Because to me, I was just thinking like I should have gone, or I may have gone, or I might have gone.
I should have went doesn't make sense.
Right. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
So, okay. But you're right, because I went and, well...
I think they're completely interchangeable. I don't think they have any difference in like when you should say it or why you should say it. But I had gone, or it's just making it more of a tense instead of just a tense, a past tense.
It's a tense within a tense, but there is a correct and an incorrect way to use the words, and I should have went is incorrect.
Absolutely.
Right. No. You should have went left. That's wrong. I'm sorry.
Gone left.
Right, I should have gone left. I should have turned left. Let's be accurate. My stepfather is an asshole about the going straight words. Like you don't go straight, you go forward.
You go forward because going straight is an affront to the gay community.
Yes, it is what the evangelical Christians do at their Pray Away the Gay conventions. You should have went straight. Oh boy, cough button. Here we go. 4 weeks later, and we still have a massive cough. You need to get that. You need to get that checked,
actually,
man.
2 weeks before I came, so it was actually 6 weeks.
And before he went.
Yes.
Yeah. When do you go back to Vietnam?
I don't know.
Well,
I haven't made any money.
Up in the air, huh?
I came back here with the intention of making enough money to go and move my business, but I haven't made enough money to even pay my rent here.
Shit.
So.
It's been rough, huh? Crazy. So. I was part of the reason that we took a break wasn't because I was lounging on a beach somewhere in Barbados having cocktails and sex. It was because I had to go to the great state of Texas for a couple of weeks for training at work, and I'd never been. So I was told, you're going to Dallas for 2 weeks. So I assumed 10-gallon hat, everybody says y'all, lots of barbecue and steak, and people listening to country music with lifted trucks. That's what I was assuming Dallas would be. I was very wrong. Dallas was a pretty progressive town. Nobody has an accent in Dallas. No cowboy boots. Well, some cowboy boots, but not a lot of cowboy boots. And we went downtown to this really hip area, and I was absolutely impressed. Even more so than what I see here in Phoenix, Arizona, with the diversity in Dallas.
Yeah.
I went to this it was a coffee shop by day, like music venue, nightclub by night kind of thing on the weekends. And it was pretty incredible. I saw there was a band that was playing that had a black rapper slash singer, a white rapper slash singer, so they both did vocals, a white straight white trash hick, like white wife beater, cowboy hat, fucked up teeth, straight up drummer, and a Mexican vinyl spinning DJ, and then a hipster bass player, all performing on stage at the same time, playing really cool music. It was really cool, kind of like old school Incubus, like not rap rock, because that has a bad, people think like Tyler, or what's it, Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit when you say rap rock, but it was really good. And the crowd was really diverse, from like prissy little white girls with bleach blonde hair from the college to like really kind of scary looking urban guys, like hump grind dancing their girlfriends on the dance floor, where you thought they were probably making babies while they were doing this. It was so aggressive. And it was really cool. The diversity was amazing. And there was some homeless population downtown, and there was definitely, you could tell, like, drugs and booze were a thing. It was a big city, and a pretty cool place. I enjoyed my time in Dallas more than I thought that I would. And everybody says Austin, Texas is really cool, but if you've never had a chance to check out Dallas, pretty cool town. I went down to Dealey Plaza, where JFK was assassinated. That was pretty surreal. And I've always been a big JFK assassination conspiracy theorist, like second gunman on the grassy knoll kind of conspiracy shit, right? Like Lyndon Johnson had him killed, Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy kind of thing, until I got there. And when you are standing on the spot in the middle of Elm Street where JFK was shot and killed, and you look up to the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository building where he allegedly shot the rifle from, and you get to actually see with your own eyes how incredibly close those two spots really are, because in pictures and the Zapruder film and all that stuff, it looks like it would have to have been some miracle shot because of how far away it looks on film. But in person, the distance from that 6th floor window to the street is not very far. And a good sharpshooter would be able to take that shot without any problem. So it kind of changed my perspective on the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. What did you guys do while we were off? Oh, really?
Lots of porn.
Yep.
I came, every night. I'd set up my microphone.
He came every night.
Yeah.
Every night.
Lots of porn,
too.
and he
I
came
heard
every
that
night.
too.
I kept setting up my microphone and getting ready for the show, and
Yes.
not realizing. I know you sent me emails, but I haven't learned how to read yet, so I got to get that thing done.
Yes, there was a little bit of confusion last Saturday. I thought that I had clearly said that we would be back this Saturday. I was a dick, and my two good friends here, Chaz and Robinson, were awaiting my arrival on the sober happy hour, and I never showed. So like an asshole, they waited until they could wait no longer. But what about you, Chaz? What did you do?
Not much. Worked.
Work? Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
I did that too.
And
Oh.
glare. The glare was driving me nuts.
I did have a fun story.
Uh-oh.
On my way to Dallas, if anyone has ever flown in or out of Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport in the summertime, you might know what I dealt with. Because when it's 150,000 degrees on the ground, it can really fuck with an airplane flying over this area, because the heat that radiates off of the asphalt, the concrete, the grass, the sand, the water, the fields, the mountains, different amounts of heat radiate off of these different substrate, if you will. And this causes the airplane to just jump around in the sky like it's crazy. And you'll be at 15,000 feet getting over Phoenix, and you'll, like, within a split second be at 12,000 feet and then back up to 16,000, and it's crazy, very bumpy. So I leave Dallas, I leave Dallas to head to the airport in Fort Worth at 3 p.m. My flight is in the 5 o'clock hour, but for work we are required to be there 2 hours early so that we don't miss flights and stuff like that. So I get to the airport, and on the way I get a notification that the flight has been delayed by like 30 minutes. No big deal. 30 minutes.
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you fly? Wait, you went to Fort Worth instead of Dallas?
Dallas Fort Worth Airport.
Are they next to each other? I don't know.
Fort Worth and Dallas are, they're 30 minutes away from each other.
Okay.
Yeah, two different cities in Texas. That's the main airport, biggest airport in the country physically.
Oh.
Huge airport. So on the way to the airport, stopped for lunch, had, I kid you not, the best barbecue I have ever had in my life. So, thanks to the fruit stand that I work for and the copious amounts of money that they provide for food, knowing this was my last day on this trip, I had lunch, had quite a bit of money left over on my per diem, and decided I was going to spend the rest of it on barbecued tenderloin to bring home with me, because the flight was only supposed to be 2 hours long. So I order a couple pounds of barbecue tenderloin. They wrap it up for me. I take it with me, and because I'm going to eat it. It's going to be delicious. I get to the airport. They delay the flight by 30 minutes. No big deal. Half an hour later, they delay the flight another 2 hours, and then another couple of hours after that. A very nice person at the airport that worked at one of the food places there literally let me give them my bag of meat and put it in a refrigerator for me, which was very nice, so that it wouldn't spoil. Finally, getting on the airplane about 8 p.m., and we get on the airplane, we're taking off, everything's good, my meat's still cold, and we're in the air. It's supposed to be a 2-hour flight. We're about an hour and 45 minutes into the flight, and they say, hey, there's some storms brewing in the Phoenix area. We're gonna circle around Payson, Arizona for a little while, see if the storm clears up and try to land. 2 hours later,
good Lord.
we're still circling around Payson, Arizona, and the captain gets on, or mind you, the stewardesses had gotten through about half the airplane getting us drinks, and then the captain comes on. This is your captain speaking. I'm going to have to ask all of the flight attendants to please take your seats and prepare for descent. It's like, descent? We're not... Where are we descending to? Holy shit. Okay. So makes the flight attendants take their seats. They literally stop halfway through the drink service, and they sit down and puts the seatbelt sign on, and the plane starts freaking out, right? The plane literally, I felt like it was going to break in half. And I always look for the crew when shit gets weird on a plane. Because if they
panic.
Right, if they aren't panicked, then I'm okay. When they start to panic and you see them crossing themselves, and they're, the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost, or their eyes are squeezed shut and they're grabbing onto the handles, like, then there's a problem. And they were cool. They knew we were good. But so they're sitting, flight's really bumpy. Captain gets back.
I think they're trained to look super cool in moments of terror and panic.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Like you the first time you did a piercing.
Right, exactly. So he gets back on the horn and says, so we've been circling around Payson for a while, I'm sure you noticed, but we're running low on fuel. So we're going to need to divert, and we're going to divert you to Las Vegas. And Las Vegas is a 4-hour drive from home, but it's only like a 45-minute flight from home. So I'm thinking, worst case scenario, they put me up in a hotel in Vegas, I play some craps, I get home tomorrow, no big deal. So they land us in Vegas. There's no gate for us to pull into, of course. We need fuel. And we literally are in Vegas, we have no gate. They get us fuel on the runway instead. We're waiting on the runway. They don't let us out of the plane. 4 hours later, we're in line to take off to Phoenix, and we're ready to go. And then he gets back on the horn and says, this is your captain speaking. Quick update for you. Sky Harbor has been closed due to the storms. So we're going to wait it out. We'll keep you updated. And so now everybody's just pissed, right? And so we finally get home. It is now approaching 3 o'clock in the morning.
12 hours later.
I have been up since 6 a.m. Dallas time because I had to work a half day before going to the airport. So the whole time, the only saving grace, and oh, by the way, all of my meat has spoiled by this time and is starting to smell really rancid on the airplane.
Oh, no.
Because I have it in the pouch on the seat in front of me. I just kind of stuck it in there. And I start to, as time goes on, longer and longer, I start to get whiffs of, stinky beef. It's just billowing out of this pouch.
This is not cooked or what?
It's smoked, but I mean, 8 hours out of refrigeration and beef starts to smell funky, and so it definitely started to smell funky. And I mean, the plane, if you're not in the air at 35,000 feet, it starts to get a little warm in that plane too. Yeah. In Vegas, it was probably over 100 degrees while we were waiting there. So It definitely started to get toasty. It started to get smelly. And so when I got off the plane, I was like, fuck it. I just left that meat there and let them find it and got home. But the beauty of it was, I guess, if there's any silver lining, is the company that I work for is owned and operated out of California. So our wages and our HR laws, if you will, that we follow are California laws when it comes to time and pay. So I was getting paid this whole time, and if anybody knows California law, after 12 hours on a shift, you're are no longer just making regular overtime. You're making premium overtime.
Double time, right?
Double time, right. So
Yeah.
I made a shit ton of money sitting on that airplane for as many hours as I did. And so that was the only saving grace that made me not want to blow up the plane. Oh, shit.
Don't say that. Oh, my God.
Now,
God.
damn it.
Oh, Jesus Christ. There
now
goes the show.
Yep,
yeah,
now I'm on a terrorist watch list. Great. No fly list for me.
Way to go,
oh, well.
Mike.
So that was my fun story from being away from the show for a little while. But for those that don't know, that are just tuning in, this is the Sober Happy Hour radio broadcast, and we are back after a 4-week hiatus. So we were just getting everybody up to speed with what the three of us have been up to. And getting into our topic for tonight, we wanted to spend some time talking about a subject that is probably a little controversial, but we're good at that, and also a little bit sad, and a little
we're good at that
bit,
too.
We can be, absolutely, but also a little bit just twisted, right? Just kind of morbid, and I don't know that people are aware of how messed up things can get from drinking or drugging while a woman is pregnant. And so we wanted to talk about the effects of drugs and alcohol on a fetus, an unborn child, but also the effects of drugs and alcohol once that child is born. I think a lot of people just immediately think, oh, drug baby, and their mind jumps to this idea of a crack baby. But there are some even sadder types of babies who are born to addicts.
More sad, not sad.
Than just mothers who abuse crack cocaine while they're pregnant. Anyone that's ever seen a heroin baby or heard of stories of a heroin baby knows that might be one of the most excruciating beginnings to an existence that I can think of, aside from maybe a baby giraffe, because that seems pretty awful to be a baby giraffe. If anyone's never seen a giraffe being born, they look pretty sad because they have to stand up right away and they have those really fragile bones.
The only thing worse than that is a giraffe baby being born on heroin.
On heroin.
Really bad, yeah.
A heroin giraffe baby. Yeah. Fucking seriously though, I mean, when you think about the zoos, especially the Detroit Zoo, the heroin giraffe babies are just everywhere. It's really sad. Please donate to the Detroit Zoo. Save the heroin giraffe babies. So anyway,
that was a nice little plug for the heroin giraffe babies. Thank you.
No one else is thinking of them.
I know.
So we think alcohol is probably the most prominent of the drugs that can be and are typically used by pregnant mothers. And in recent years, there has even been this movement to let pregnant women feel that drinking in moderation while pregnant is not a bad thing. Oh, it's not that big of a deal, especially if you're either in your third trimester or before your third trimester. Here's the thing. I've heard it both ways. It can't be both ways, because prior to the third trimester, the baby's going through a certain type of development. All the development is incredibly fast, right? Just very, what's the word I'm looking for? Accelerated development. And in the third trimester, there are critical things developing in the baby, like the lungs, the cardiovascular system. Go ahead, Robinson.
Well, what is the definition of moderate? That's my
the
question.
thing. Well, okay. So if you are pregnant, early in pregnancy, and because this is the argument that I've heard. The argument being, I didn't know I was pregnant until my second trimester because I'm a fucking moron, I guess. And I drank every weekend. I partied all the way through the first third of my pregnancy, and my baby came out fine. So that's the argument that I've heard most often.
Okay.
I didn't know. I didn't take any precautions, and my baby's fine. And what's funny is maybe their babies aren't fine because I know a lot of people with like quasi retarded children that they think are, you know, gifted and wonderful, and they're not. So, or really poorly behaved children. I actually know a lot of parents who think that their children are gifted and wonderful and talented and brilliant, and they're not. So I don't know. These are all very subjective things. But if the argument is that I went through the first third or half of my pregnancy and didn't know I was pregnant and drank and smoked and did my usual thing and my baby was fine, then could it truly be bad for the baby to drink while you're pregnant? I don't know. What do you guys think? Just off the bat, without any
again,
research
it comes back to what is moderation. I mean, you know, how many generations of French citizens have had pregnant moms with drinking one glass of wine at dinner? You know, it really, that's what it's really all comes down to.
Absolutely. And I think in America, in the United States, we think of drinking as something very different than that. We think of drinking as party drinking.
That's a
we
hobby.
think of drinking as getting drunk, you know, getting wasted, doing shots, not just a glass. Nobody that I know would consider having a glass of wine. I don't even think they would classify that as drinking, right? Like the concept of drinking and driving to most people is, are you intoxicated and then going to drive? Because having one beer at dinner, I don't think anybody would think twice about getting behind the wheel of a car in the U.S. But if you're, you know, pounding beers and taking shots and having Boilermakers at the bar, now you are drinking. So I think there's a lot of there's cultural differences, but there's also the subjectivity of just the terminology, right? Yes, if you're having a glass of wine at dinner, you are drinking, right? Technically speaking. So moderate drinking, a glass of wine with dinner. Now, are we talking a 4-ounce pour like in most European countries when they have a glass of wine, it's a 4-ounce pour? Or are we talking a glass of wine in the United States where it's this giant goblet and it's half a bottle in one glass of wine? Because those are also differences. You know what I'm talking about, Robinson.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I used to pull that shit all the time. I have these Riedel glasses, these crystal glasses, and they are for red wine, and they are incredibly bulbous and wide and tall. So you could fill that thing up and it looks like it's only a third of the way full, but you've literally just put half or more of a bottle of wine in there, but you're telling your spouse, no, honey, I'm fine. I've only had 2 glasses of wine. No big deal.
It's the same idea with drinking shots. Yeah. It's only this big. It's only this much. You know, but how many did you have? 72.
Yep. So
this is moderation.
Totally subjective, right? Yeah. But here's the thing. Your baby, think of a baby as a sponge, but a very dense sponge. And a full-grown human is also spongy, but it's a far less dense, porous sponge and can't soak up nearly as much liquid. It's kind of like if the baby is a sponge, like a natural sponge, and an adult is like a sheet of dollar store paper towels. Not very absorbent and can dry out pretty quickly. A baby is a sponge, a fancy natural sponge, and you could leave that son of a bitch on your sink basin for a week and it's still wet when you walk up to it a week later. That's the difference between fetus getting alcohol that passes through the placenta into the fetus, and now the fetus takes 10 times, 50 times longer to process that alcohol out of its system than the mother did to process it out of her system. So if you're dealing with an alcoholic and the alcoholic is drinking thinking that she's being moderate, right? Being what's the word I'm looking for? Responsible. That fetus may not yet have even processed all the alcohol that it had from the first round, and now it's being introduced with more. And brain development, all kinds of stunted developmental problems can happen from drinking alcohol. Not to mention facial deformities.
Yes.
Neurological problems. You were going to say something?
Fetal alcohol syndrome.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, FASD, is actually what it's referred to. They say that birth defects caused by prenatal alcohol exposure, up to 40,000 babies a year are born in the United States with FASD. So apparently there's a substance known to be harmful to human development, teratogen, something like that. Everybody that listens to this program knows that I'm terrible at pronouncing medical words. Don't email me about it. And because the alcohol does cross from mother to baby, crosses the placenta into your baby's bloodstream, the baby's getting the alcohol too. And because the alcohol breaks down much more slowly in the baby, that means the alcohol remains in the baby's bloodstream a lot longer than it does in the mother's bloodstream, potentially causing irreversible harm to the baby's development.
So the baby gets to party much longer.
Yeah. So, I mean, unless you have twins, in which case the baby's got someone to party with. Imagine drinking alone. Nobody wants to drink alone. And according to the American Pregnancy Association of America.org or whatever, there is no known safe amount of alcohol that you can consume if you're pregnant. Period. Although, the little asterisk says, it is best to discuss any drinking patterns with your healthcare provider. No! You just told us there's no safe amount of drinking you can do when you're pregnant. And if your doctor says that there is, get a new doctor.
Well, hopefully the doctor will tell them the same thing.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
unless the doctor's a drunkard, and a lot of them are.
Yeah.
So during the first 4 weeks of pregnancy, your baby's heart, central nervous system, eyes, arms, legs, they're all developing. The brain begins to develop around the 3rd week and then continues to mature throughout the rest of the pregnancy. So during the 3rd trimester, your baby will be growing most rapidly. So if you're consuming an excessive amount of alcohol during these crucial stages of development, so first 3 weeks, 3rd trimester, you're probably going to fuck the baby up the worst. Serious harm. Results of excessive drinking. Fetal alcohol syndrome is something also. I guess that's what actually happens to the baby, like that you notice after it's born. So if a baby is born, then they're born with fetal alcohol syndrome. The other one, the FASD, is what can happen to them while they're in utero. What if I drank alcohol before I knew I was pregnant? Well, if you were not aware that you were pregnant and you drank alcohol, the best thing you can do now is to stop drinking alcohol.
As soon as possible, yeah.
Right. The sooner you stop, the better. The risk of harm will decrease. So.
Side note. Okay. Just interesting information about babies, not necessarily alcohol, but at the rate that a baby grows in the womb from a cell to a full-grown baby at 8 pounds, 4 ounces, whatever that might be. If the baby continued to grow at the same rate after it was born, on its first birthday, it would be the size of a battleship.
Okay.
Shit.
Battleship,
not
from the game.
No.
Pretty small.
Aircraft carrier.
Oh, okay. Like a full-blown battleship.
A real battleship.
So within a year, if a baby was still growing at the rate that it was growing in your belly, your baby would be the size of a yacht.
A very big
battleship.
Got it. So okay. So like Bill Gates's yacht.
Think Pearl Harbor.
Got it.
USS Missouri.
Got it.
Big gas.
But not an aircraft carrier, because that's a little ridiculous. Okay, I can think of
just
my babies.
About the size.
Yeah,
I can think of my babies the size of battleships, but when you start talking babies the size of aircraft carriers, I start to have problems visualizing.
If it was growing that fast, it wouldn't be too long before it would be the size of an aircraft carrier.
Okay, fine.
Like a month after its first birthday.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Now I'm visualizing better.
Okay. Now imagine having to feed it.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Breast milk.
I was planning to breastfeed. It takes a village, Robinson. It takes a village.
A country.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So go ahead.
No, I'm saying go back to your show or your
So
story.
Really interesting is how drugs and alcohol pass to the baby. So some of the fetus blood vessels are contained in these tiny little hair-like projections. They're called villi of the placenta that extend into the walls of the uterus. So the mother's blood passes through the space surrounding these little tentacles, and so only a thin membrane, the placental membrane, will separate the mother's blood in the intervillous space, whatever that is, from the fetus's blood into those villi. So drugs or alcohol in the mother's blood can and will cross this membrane into the blood vessels, into the villi, and pass through the umbilical cord into the fetus. So if you think that what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're doing is not affecting your baby because your baby's in a little pouch and that pouch is protected from you, you are wrong. And I'm not talking about you pointing fingers at the woman. This also involves the family and the husband or the boyfriend or the John or whomever got you pregnant. It doesn't matter. The preacher, the priest, whomever got you pregnant is also responsible. So this is interesting. So within 20 days after the fertilization of the egg, the fetus is highly resistant to birth defects. 3 to 8 weeks after fertilization, things start to get a little bit different. The fetus's organs are developing, making the fetus particularly vulnerable to birth defects. So a miscarriage is possible. An obvious birth defect can be possible when the baby is born, or a permanent but subtle defect that is noticed only later in life could happen from drug or alcohol use 3 to 8 weeks post-fertilization.
So saying that you drank and your baby is fine, yeah. Your baby might be fine now or might appear to be fine now, but there's a pretty
As a
good chance,
baby, right?
pretty good chance that when that kid drinks alcohol, it's going to become an addict.
All bets are off. And that's a good point. And it could be something that you don't notice for many years, like until they start school, and now they're having trouble in school. They're developmentally slower, or maybe they have birth defects that are not visible birth defects, right? So organ problems that don't show up until later in life. The second and third trimesters, organ development is complete, so changes in the growth and function of normally formed organs and tissue can be a problem if you're using drugs or alcohol during the second and third trimesters. Now all of a sudden your baby has a malformed liver, or their digestive system isn't developing properly. Their lungs don't develop properly. It's unlikely to cause obvious external birth defects, and even according to this medical shit that I'm reading, they're unknown long-term effects because this wasn't something that was studied until very recently. Drug use, street drugs in pregnancy. I mean, part of what the March of Dimes organization does is trying to educate mothers on the use of illicit drugs during pregnancy. I mean, almost everything that you find that comes off the shelf has a big fat warning on it, says do not use if pregnant or breastfeeding. So imagine what some street drugs could do to your developing baby or your now born baby that you're breastfeeding. If something as benign as Advil could fuck up your baby. One that I remember hearing about from a relative of mine who is a doctor. Back in my teenage years, I had a pimply face, and it was when Accutane was kind of new for treating acne, and we were talking about it a little bit, and he shared with me a story about how Accutane, he felt at the time that physicians had jumped the gun hardcore on prescribing Accutane specifically to young women for the treatment of acne, and they eventually, within a few years, started implementing mandatory monthly pregnancy tests for young women taking Accutane who were of child-rearing age. So if they had had their first menstrual period and they're taking Accutane, you're going to get tested every month for pregnancy, even if you swear up and down to your doctor and your parents that you're not sexually active, because his words, he's a doctor, he knows better than me. If you take Accutane while you are pregnant, your baby will turn to scrambled eggs. That's what he said. Scrambled egg baby. Something
I love scrambled eggs.
I do too.
I can never eat scrambled eggs again now. Thank you.
Sorry. These are probably like scrambled eggs that you accidentally made with like a fertilized chicken egg, where it's got like blood and mucus and a membrane and weird shit in it. Those are the worst. I tried to make a cake one time and cracked an egg, and it was like a fertilized egg that had like blood and weird in it, and like
a little heart pumping away.
Yeah.
Ew.
You're baby chicken. So Accutane is a fucked up thing when you're pregnant. All the whatever that crazy shit is. Like you're not even allowed to go out into the sun when you're on Accutane because apparently you become a vampire, so you will burn up if you go out into the sun on Accutane. But it will turn your baby into scrambled eggs.
Sounds like formaldehyde.
What is
Yeah.
that?
Oh, that was some birth control.
Thalidomide.
What is it?
Thalidomide.
Thalidomide. Thank you.
Thalidomide, yeah.
It was what was it meant for birth control?
Painkiller. It was
Oh,
a
it was a
painkiller.
Painkiller that came out in the 50s, I think, or the 40s in Germany, and babies were being born with no arms and legs, like flipper babies.
Ooh.
And even after that was discovered, they still kept it on the market.
Sure they did.
Mhm.
They were making money. That reminds me, totally off topic and probably a tangent, but I introduced my son Jackson, my younger son, for those listeners that don't know, just turned 8 years old, and I introduced him to the movie Jaws for the first time. He'd never seen it, and it holds up. I hadn't seen it in many, many years. So we got it, we downloaded it, we watched it. He loved it. He absolutely loved it. He loves old movies. He's like an old soul. He loves adult, not like porno adult movies. Come on, give me a break. But adult movies that most kids his age would think are boring. I remember when Peyton was his age, he randomly told me one day, Dad, yeah, I like movies a lot, but you know what part I don't like? And I'm thinking he's going to say like the part where people kiss or the part that, I don't know, something that kids wouldn't like. He's like, I really don't understand why they have to do all the parts where it's just people talking. So to him, the movie just should have been action sequence the whole 2 hours. The
Michael
talking,
Bay shit.
get rid of the talking. Jackson is like the opposite. So I introduced him to Jaws, and he loves Jaws, and it was a lot of fun. And we watched all 4 of the Jaws movies over the course of like a week. And then he goes on YouTube to try and find Jaws-related YouTube videos. Some were like, 10 things you didn't know about Jaws, or, best Jaws scenes, or deleted scenes, director's cut, whatever. And then one that he found was a trailer for something that was being referred to as Orca. And Orca, the trailer, to me, when I watched this 2.5-minute trailer, it looked like a Jaws parody. Like somebody had cut together a bunch of scenes from a movie and then like clips of Shamu the whale to make a parody of Jaws, this killer orca that's killing people, and but instead of Jaws jumping out of the water, it was this cute little orca with its mouth open, trying to kill people. And I just assumed that Orca was a funny parody, fake, didn't really make it movie, but it was just this trailer for a Jaws parody. Turns out there was a real movie called Orca in 1977 that was essentially a Jaws ripoff, using an orca whale instead of a shark to terrorize a boat, and a boat captain with a scruffy beard, and the professional guy, the slick-looking guy that thought he didn't have anything to worry about. He was going to protect the lady and whatever. And so we watched this movie Orca, and it was the worst movie ever. And the reason that I thought of this just now was because Robinson mentioned babies being born with flippers. And in this film, the most disturbing part of this awful, terrible B movie called Orca from 1977 was, spoiler alert, if you plan to watch Orca, they kill, the reason that the male orca goes crazy and starts to go on his murderous rampage is because these arrogant humans kill this female orca, and they pull her out of the water by the tail on this whaling ship, and they kill her, and the male is screaming in anger. And then they kill her, and as soon as they kill the female, out pops this unfinished unfinished, unbaked orca fetus from this female orca and like lands splat on the deck of the ship, and like everybody on the ship starts puking, and the male orca goes crazy, and they like kick it off the deck of the ship into the water, and it looks like this really effed up human fetus with, because they mentioned earlier in the movie, orcas are so much like humans. They might be the smartest creatures in the ocean. They might be smarter than humans in certain ways. And when they're developing fetuses, they have 10 fingers and 10 toes before they turn into the fins or whatever. And so this orca fetus pops out of this dead female orca onto the deck of this boat, and it kind of looks like a disgusting, slimy, pink human fetus. So I'm
Well,
thinking of what you said, and it made me think of that.
if you want to
Anyway.
hear something interesting about orcas, it's kind of funny. Like they didn't know that exactly what.
I hear nothing.
You don't hear me?
Okay, keep talking.
Okay,
Oh,
can
I
you
do
hear
now.
me? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that their brains, the part of their brain that is connected like with emotion, with feeling, is more developed than ours. It's not that they're more smarter than us, they feel stronger than us. Their feelings are like more profound and more deep and more powerful than the way we
They
feel.
shared that in this movie.
Did they? Yeah, if you
Yeah.
see if the movie Blackfish, have you ever seen that?
Uh-huh.
You've seen it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what they talk about in there, is how orcas just are almost people in a way.
I know, it's
And
really crazy.
yeah, it's
So
really
to
cool.
say I love you like an orca would be an extreme compliment. Orca
I
love.
love you like an orca.
I love you more than an
Awesome.
orca.
More than an orca loves
So
to the fetus of his unborn baby on a ship
Oh
deck.
my god, you people.
I have
Fuck,
the
Joe.
craziest 2-second delay going on in my headphones right now from my own voice.
Your
So I'm
picture,
going
your
to
image is coming out
quickly.
really delayed too.
Okay, I'm gonna quickly shut off my audio thingy real quick and put it right back on. So if you guys talk amongst yourselves.
Okay.
All right.
I have a nephew
Mm-hmm.
who is well, actually, I shouldn't say my nephew. It's my ex-wife's nephew, Sabina's cousin. He was born on heroin. His mother was addicted to heroin, hardcore, every day, heavy user. And when he was born, for he just like cried every day because he was going through withdrawal for so long. And when he was able to get on his hands and knees, he would bang his head nonstop against the side wall of his crib all day, all day, just like constantly, just like crying and banging his head. So yeah, and when he became, and he was aware of this growing up. He was aware that both his mother and father were heroin addicts, and so he had like seen it and had all the warning in the world. But I think by the time he was like 20, he decided to try heroin, and which was kind of sad because he was pretty straight edge for most of his life. But when he finally tried heroin, all it took was one time, and then he was addicted. And since that time, he's been in and out of prison and in all kinds of trouble. I think he might even be in prison now. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if we lost the feed because of. It looks like he might. He didn't log off, did he?
No. Now he did.
Okay. Uh-oh. Are we gonna lose our feed? Oh
I
shit.
think so.
That means that our YouTube feed is over. All right, I'm gonna go get something to drink.
All right.
All right, I'm back.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So that was weird. So it looks like Robinson might have walked away.
Yeah, he went to go get a drink.
Got it. Okay. Well,
There you-
I just had to restart the feed. It got messed up. I don't know why.
All right.
All right, recording again. We're good.
Be sure to restart the YouTube feed.
It was never stopped.
Oh.
You guys were still live.
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
Whoops. Yes, I just being the owner and the host of the Hangout itself, if I disconnect and my Wi-Fi shuts down or my computer freezes or whatever, you guys will remain live and broadcasting without any problem without me.
Really?
Unless I stop the broadcast physically, which I did not do. So for the future, just in case.
Good to know.
Which I think is smart because how common is it that the initiators shit might get messed up? I'd say that's probably fairly common. So when I edit this podcast, I will just edit out the nonsense.
Okay.
Cool. So I love you like an orca.
I'm showing off my skull that I'm working on here.
Ooh. What is it?
It's a horse's skull,
Holy shit.
and the jaw was separated, but I'm in the process of gluing it back together.
And what do you plan to do with this skull? Is it an art project?
I've got antlers from a deer, a very big deer, that I'm going to attach and then display it on the wall.
So you are gonna freak people out.
I'm
You
going
could
to
take
make
it. You could take it to a freak show and tell them that you found an ancient horse head when horses used to have antlers.
Or I could put a single horn on it and make a unicorn.
And make a
skull.
unicorn.
That would be
But-
cool.
But make it a deer antler. So most people think unicorns are just a single horn, but it's an antler horn, so it looks all like multiple horny bits with velvet. That'd be really funny.
Well, I have another project that is the deer spine and pelvis, and I've attached a goat's head skull to it. I think it's a
Jeez.
goat. I'm not sure. I got lots of bones.
Where'd you get all these bones?
I don't know. I just like find them, and people give them to me, and
Yeah, that's not
I
creepy.
don't know. There's like mouse and cats, and I don't have a dog or anything, but
You should become a taxidermist.
no,
That'd be cool.
I'm just a bone collector.
That was a good movie. You ever see that? Denzel
No.
Washington? That was a good one.
No.
So, all right. Heroin, we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Heroin can cause birth defects as well. This is really funny. So on this website, it says the dangers of heroin in pregnancy, and the first line: heroin, also known as H stuff, smack, horse, junk, and other street names, is a highly addictive opiate drug derived from morphine. I just like that it says H stuff.
H stuff.
H stuff.
Well, while you were logged out, I told the story about Sabina's cousin.
I heard the story. I was not logged out during the
Yeah.
banging of the head against the bars
Yeah.
and becoming instantly addicted to heroin later in life. I think we told the story a while back about a little girl that ended up with cancer, and her name is McKenna, and she had a really aggressive, nasty cancer tumor. It was called a neuroblastoma, and she had this massive tumor in her belly, and they removed it successfully, and she's been fine for many years ever since. But I remember she was basically on a constant morphine drip for months, And all I could think about after all of that went down was, they weaned her slowly off of this morphine. And I fear for this child in the future that if she gets into her teenage years or her 20s and she starts experimenting with drugs and takes Vicodin or Percocet or Oxy or even, tries heroin, that it's not going to take much. And this little girl was now predisposed to a life of opioid addiction because of having been hopped up on this shit for so long that it changed her brain.
Yeah.
So, because heroin is passed through the placenta into the baby, um, there's actually a risk of overdosing your baby. I didn't even think of that. So maybe I, the mother, have a pretty high heroin tolerance and I can take a lot without killing myself. But your baby doesn't,
Yeah.
right? So that's pretty fucked up. They're talking in this article about how sometimes heroin is not very pure and it can be mixed with other substances such as quinine, starch, sugar, and poisons such as strychnine. It's like, come on, so dramatic. An overdose can result in convulsions, coma, death. So aside from, obvious diseases from heroin injection like HIV, hepatitis, other bloodborne illnesses, chronic users can also experience increased risks of the following problems: infections of the heart lining and valves, pneumonia, liver and kidney disease, and tuberculosis. Birth defects.
Wait, is this all fetal?
No, that's the user.
Okay.
Birth defects associated with heroin may include any of the following: premature birth of baby, hypoglycemia, low birth weight, breathing problems, intracranial hemorrhage, bleeding of the brain, infant death, infant addiction. Infants born addicted to heroin may experience withdrawal symptoms after birth. That's like the saddest thing ever.
Yeah.
Fever, joint stiffness, sleep disturbances, convulsions, diarrhea, irritability, constipation, the inability to piss or shit or anything that babies constantly do. I couldn't imagine being this innocent little newborn baby that doesn't know any better and being like withdrawing from heroin. That would be the worst thing ever.
Welcome to life. Yeah.
Right? Jesus. You're already being ripped out of this really comfortable womb that you've been in for the last 9 months. You have to smell the stench of the world. You're super fucking loaded, and then some asshole spanks you on the ass. It's like, fuck, I didn't do anything. How could I already be in trouble? I'm a newborn.
You're on heroin.
That's right, goddammit. But what I do like about this article that I was reading is something that it says here about getting off heroin if you find out that you're pregnant. And first thing it says is, rather than quitting cold turkey, the best option is to contact a medical expert as soon as you can to get treatment, because addiction is a complicated task, ladies and gentlemen. It is a process. There are prescription medications. Like, just saying, oh shit, I'm pregnant, let me quit cold turkey, it's not gonna work. I'm sure you love that baby more than anything that you've ever loved in this world, but I'm sorry, you love the heroin more. You'll never admit that you do, but you do. And you might try to kick it cold turkey. And if it's the first time you've ever tried to kick cold turkey, maybe you'll do it. Chances are you won't, because the relapse rate for a heroin addict is in the 90% and higher range. So if you really want to do right by your baby, get in touch with an addiction specialist, get into treatment, get on a program, figure out a way other than trying to quit cold turkey, because the amount of stress that you're going to put your body under trying to quit cold turkey as well, especially if you're newly pregnant, chances are you're going to lose the baby, because your body's going to be under a tremendous amount of stress. And stress plus early pregnancy equals miscarriage. I'm sorry. It does. So that's heroin for babies.
What else?
What's another one that is fairly common concern about drugs in babies? Oh, good one. Meth and pregnancy. I know I saw the one about methamphetamines earlier, and it was a good one because it was from a website that was like what to expect when you're expecting or something like that. And I trust those motherfuckers because I had that book when I was a new dad. So a meth baby typically methamphetamine, you're not going to see the kinds of birth defects that you might see from alcohol. You're not going to see the withdrawals, so the addiction at birth kind of stuff that you're going to see with heroin. But it tends to be more of a long-term learning disability kind of problem that the kid's going to have. So to me, that's almost scarier, because you as the parent might think, shit, you know, I was doing meth while I was pregnant, and now my baby's here and I'm a mom, so I'm going to stop using the drugs and everything's cool, and I've been sober for 5 years, and then my kid turns 5 years old and shit goes south. And the complications become greater and greater as they get older and older, and their development is stunted. It's hard to say because meth is so different from batch to batch and recipe to recipe. But it looks like, based on the things that I've read, that meth while pregnant may be the least obvious problem physically, and it may take years to present itself. I think any kind of stress that you put your body under when you're pregnant is probably not good for the baby. And when you get super high and hopped up on any kind of drug or alcohol when you're pregnant, that's probably not good for your baby. And putting meth into the bloodstream of your baby is probably not good for its development either. But high blood pressure, preeclampsia, and then like a ruptured placenta are things that they've seen from meth users who are pregnant. And if it's anything, it's like 23% of mothers not using meth requires C-section, but over 50% of mothers who were using meth had to have C-sections. I don't know. Seems like it's almost double, or that's more than double. Some things that they're looking at about meth and the fetus is damage to the DNA of the baby.
Uh-huh.
So I guess DNA damage because the enzymes that protect the fetus from free radicals have not developed yet. They're not developed until the last couple of weeks of your pregnancy, so the fetus is developing organ structures and mental functions, and the meth is raging through the DNA makeup with little defense to combat damage to the cells. Premature birth, fetal stroke because of the uncontrolled high blood pressure. So the big one, though, is the lifelong challenges. Similar, it sounds, to like crack cocaine babies. So there's one that I wanted to kind of wrap up with.
Okay.
And that is one that I don't think that a lot of moms, like new moms, pregnant moms, talk about. I hear it all the time, and I've actually seen a lot of moms finally make the decision to stop when they get pregnant, and I think that's great. But I think it's one that we don't give a lot of thought to, and we don't really think that this particular drug is that bad. I'm talking about smoking cigarettes.
Yep.
So most people know that smoking can cause cancer, heart disease, emphysema. During pregnancy, it causes additional health problems: premature birth, birth defects, infant death. It makes it harder for a woman to get pregnant if you smoke. So for all you dating guys out there, if you get your lady to start smoking, it's less likely she's going to get pregnant. Oh, yeah. So a lot of these things seem to talk about problems with the placenta itself. And for those that don't know, since the placenta is the source of the baby's nourishment and oxygen during pregnancy, if the placenta separates from the womb too early, it can cause bleeding, which could be dangerous to the mother and the baby. Can cause the baby to not get enough of the nutrients, the food, if you will, or oxygen, and potentially die. Smoking during pregnancy can cause the baby to be born way too early, or be very small at birth. Obviously, if it's born early, it's going to be small, but it can also be born at full term and be very small, which can have all kinds of problems. I had 2 children that were born 4+ weeks early, and they even at 4 weeks early, so at 36 weeks, they still had some issues with their lungs, their livers, and had to be in the hospital for a while to get to a good place. And when they're born 4+ weeks early, they come out with this like white filmy goo on them, and they just look gross. Like, nobody wants that. And it even talks about smoking after pregnancy being a significant risk factor of sudden infant death syndrome. Do you guys believe in this sudden infant death syndrome?
I don't know. It's weird. It's just so, you know,
Kids, it happens,
it
doesn't it?
happens, and we don't know why it happens, and we say, science has been trying to put a pinpoint on it, but
It
it
just
happens to people who have no drug history, who are
right.
completely healthy.
I guess to me it's like to give it a name and to have people, and I feel really bad even saying this because I know that there's people out there that have experienced this, and this is the only way that they can cope with the situation and give it a period at the end of the sentence, is say my baby died of SIDS,
Yeah.
right? But what the fuck does that mean? Personally, I think most SIDS cases are a case of suffocation, that the baby rolled over in its sleep, or there were blankets or pillows or something, and the baby just didn't have the ability to, it was smothered somehow and didn't have the ability to get out of that and died from suffocation.
Well, they can tell what, if the baby died by suffocation, there's easily, there's easy ways to tell that. But this
So
is an instance where, these are instances where they just died.
it just so no cause of death.
Well,
SIDS,
cells have
literally.
cells
Something had to come.
Right.
cells have memory, and memory in cells can be transferred genetically to your child. And if the cells that make up that person have some knowledge that there's going to be a problem in the future and this we should not survive.
You think so?
I think that's, to me, that's the only thing that I could think of.
So it's essentially Darwinism. It is
We human beings, I mean, human beings are, we think of ourselves as this, individual person and a consciousness, but there's a whole other part of us, which is colonies of cells that are living a symbiotic relationship with each other in order for themselves to survive. The cell wants to survive. All of the cells in your body are doing everything they can with each other in order for them to each survive, individually or colonially or collectively.
Okay.
And that's why we thrive for knowledge, or that's why we get hungry or thirsty, because these cells need their nourishment. They need more, and so they make us who we are.
Brain cells want knowledge and memory, and the cells that bring the nutrients to the rest of your body crave certain foods, because that is true that if you have iron deficiency, you could end up wanting to eat dirt, and that's a very real phenomena, that all of a sudden somebody that's big into eating dirt-like food, whether it's beets or carrots or things that seem dirt-like, or pregnant women that literally want to eat dirt, or dryer sheets. It's called pica. And if you test their iron levels, usually their iron levels are very low. When we're hungry, we feel hungry. We want to eat.
It's pronounced pica.
Oh, is it? Sorry. Okay. See, I'm fucking stupid. I tell you this all the time. Correct me, please. I need to be corrected.
I have met many people with pica. I mean, this turns into an adult fetish for some people.
Hey, I'm going to dip my dick in some dirt. Don't ever make that face again.
Poop.
Ooh, poop.
Poop eaters are considered in the pica world.
So they're just like, they're really honest people. They have a bullshit deficiency, so they want to eat poo.
There's a lot of dogs. Dogs eat poo.
Dogs eat poo.
Why? Because
they like the way it tastes.
There are nutrients that haven't been absorbed in the dog that pooped it.
Because they're fucking dogs, and they're disgusting.
Insect poop is called frass, Frass, and there's a lot of insects that are born with the inability to digest, like termites, for instance. Termites, when they're born, they don't have the enzyme required to digest wood, so they have to eat the poop of their parents. So when the parents lay the eggs, when they're done laying the eggs, they
poop on them.
They poop on them. So the infants are born, and the larvae or whatever just like starts eating the poop,
Dinner.
And they get the enzymes, and now they can eat wood. If they don't get the enzyme, they die.
Ooh. So that's amazing. And truth be told, that makes a lot of sense. And what you're saying, I saw Chaz in the background making that Chaz face at you, where he's looking at you like out of the side of his eye going, "You're a fucking retard."
Or a freak.
That too. But I mean, the concept that I'm a very open-minded person. And so the concepts that you're sharing, they sound reasonable to me. outlandish but reasonable. So we, the idea of cellular memory and this idea that this child may not have been a viable human being, and so this sudden infant death occurs is actually really intriguing to me because
Well, I've done a lot. I mean, this is not just some like weird idea. When I first started, looking into this, I did probably about a week's worth of research, and I don't have any like markers for my research anywhere, but there's a whole science behind it.
who was the stand-up comic that made the joke that he had SIDS when he was a kid, and he got over it, but it was hard. I don't remember. It was pretty funny though. So to tie a bow on it, we talk a lot about addiction, drug use, alcoholism on this show. And we talk about the effects that those addictions can have on us as the user, as the abuser, as the addict.
And family members around us.
Right. We've
Friends.
spent a lot of hours talking about the effects that the abuser's behavior can have on friends and family members and loved ones. I thought it would make sense tonight to have a conversation about what the user, the abuser, the addict, and what their behavior and their usage and the effect that it could have on the most innocent in this circumstance. Because a friend, a family member, a spouse, a loved one, even a grown child has the ability to separate from the abuser, right? A spouse can divorce. A parent can disconnect, and a friend can walk away. An unborn child cannot protect itself from the addict or from the user or the drug abuser. That is the ultimate symbiotic relationship. The baby is relying upon the health of the mother to live, to grow, and to eventually be born. And I'm not going to get into a conversation about a woman's right to choose, because we are three men having a conversation right now, and it is none of my motherfucking business. However, I do believe that a woman has the absolute right to choose whether or not she wants to be a mother. And if you are a pregnant woman using or abusing drugs or alcohol, and you find yourself in a situation where you cannot stop using or abusing drugs and alcohol, the choice to not be a mother is a choice that you can make. Because here's the thing. As Rachel and I continue to prepare and research and embark upon this journey of potentially finding a child or children to foster and bring into our home, there are so many children in need of adoption and fostering and families and care who are so fucked up because of the behavior and the lifestyle of their mother before this child was even born. So, make the decision. The decision has to be made. Drugs, alcohol, or pregnancy. Because you can't do both. No matter how safe you think it is, no matter how obvious the choice of giving up the child might seem to you. I'm going to give birth to this baby because I'm pro-life and I'm a Republican and I don't believe in abortion, as you inject your fucking heroin. That baby has to live with your decisions, and it doesn't have a choice in the matter. So hopefully a few of the things that we were able to outline tonight shed a little bit of light on how serious this really can be. Even just a small amount of alcohol, especially during some very critical stages of development of a fetus, a very small amount of heroin or meth. And keep in mind, please, I've said this before and I will say it again, oxycodone is heroin. Morphine, Percocet, Oxys, Roxyset, Percodan, Vicodin, the list goes on. These are full-blown opioids, just in smaller doses. You don't have to strap on and boot black tar heroin to be damaging your baby, your unborn baby. You could just be casually popping those Norcos and be causing serious damage to your baby as well. You don't have to be slamming shots of Bacardi 151 to be doing damage to your unborn baby. Those 3 bottles of Zima that you drank last night are causing damage to your baby as well. There aren't safe amounts of this shit that you can do while you're pregnant. There's just not. So, a quick update before we wrap it up for the evening, unless either one of you have anything that you wanted to add.
I wanted to say thank you very much for this episode. It has actually become incredibly appropriate in the moment because I just found out yesterday that a friend of mine who just learned that she is pregnant is also a heroin addict. And the guy that got her pregnant is telling her that she needs to keep the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And he, even though he's already got 2 kids that he can't take, or he's got a kid that he can't take care of and a pregnant girlfriend that he can't take care of. Now he's got another pregnant girlfriend who's on heroin and he's telling her to keep the baby. And I don't think that's the best idea for any of them.
Is he on heroin?
No.
Of course not.
No.
Because maybe he needs to get on heroin because then he'd stop having sex. It's a really good birth control, heroin.
He's a great guy, and I
clearly great at sex.
He's just a good person in general, and he's very caring. And I've seen how he interacts with his daughter. He's a really, really good father. Loves children, but having a baby that's born on heroin is just absolutely out of the question.
Yeah.
So I hope he watches this.
I hope so too. We're pulling for you, friend. A quick update on a happy note. We spoke of a friend a while back, friend of mine, who actually gives extraordinary thanks to the Sober Happy Hour radio broadcast for the success that she has had getting sober from a very long-term alcohol problem, and she tries to give credit to this show, and I won't let her give credit because that's ridiculous, but she believes that the Sober Happy Hour played a significant role in her sobriety and making the choice to get sober and giving her the motivation to stay sober even when it was really hard. And that was a really cool email and multiple emails since to receive from this person. And she is now probably a year and a half into her sobriety, and she continues to listen to the show on a regular basis. And I just found out recently that not only has she stopped drinking, maintained her sobriety, found a wonderful man, and has been in a committed relationship for a while, turned her life around her career around, is super happy and thriving and fruitful. She also was able to get her health back to a level that she's never seen before. She is now participating in these professional physique competitions. It's not bodybuilding, it's not to that extent, but it almost is. And she shared some pictures of herself, just like 3% body fat, looks incredible, right? Toned muscles, six-pack abs, like literally had the courage and the confidence after years of abuse to her body and not giving a shit about any of that kind of stuff, getting healthy, eating right, and exercising, that now she has the courage and the confidence to get up on a stage for the very first time in front of a huge crowd of people to be a part of a physique competition. I don't know how she placed. I don't know if she won. I don't know if she came in last, but I don't care, because the fact that just a year ago, this was a woman who was drinking herself to death, who didn't think she had anything left to live for, and certainly was not thinking about her health, is now incredibly healthy, and able to do something like that is just amazing. And I just wanted to share that story, her success story, because you can do it too.
Or if you have, share the story. If you're a listener and we've helped you, let us know.
Or even if we haven't helped you, but you've just helped yourself, we'd love to know that story as well.
That's really what it comes down to. We're not helping anyone. We're just talking.
So
a bunch of shit.
Yep. So to you, our listener, her name is Jen. She is wonderful, and I'm so proud of her and very happy for her and your new life and your newfound physique. You look wonderful. She's in her 30s too. Like, she feels and looks better than she did when she was in her early 20s. So that's fantastic. That's all I got.
All
How
right.
about you? Cool.
Thank you, Jen.
The bumper music has begun.
Find the donate button.
Hit the donate button. Hit the donut button. I love donuts. And we'll be back next week, next Saturday. We've decided that we are going to make a decision to do the show at either 9 p.m. or 10 p.m., depending on our schedules. So when it works out to do it at 9, we're going to do it at 9. If it's better that we do it at 10, we're going to do it at 10. And we're not going to make that decision until the night of, typically. But you may catch us at 9, you may catch us at 10. Regardless, it's posted on YouTube immediately after recording the show, and the podcast is up usually within a few days. So this has been the Sober Happy Hour radio broadcast. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the YouTube, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and if you do subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, hop on over to that little button that says rate and write a review. That helps us stay towards the top of the list of all the lifestyle podcasts that are out there, and it just helps us stay relevant. So we really like that too. We will be back next week with a whole new topic and a whole new show. For Chaz and Robinson, I'm still your host, and if you or yours is considering getting sober, I highly recommend it. Send us an email, soberhappyhour@gmail.com. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.